Welcome to Voices of Hyperspace. This is a podcast where friends get together and discuss all things sci-fi. Our current mission is to watch and review the hit 90s sci-fi series Babylon 5. I'm Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Captain No Asylum.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
Today we're looking at the season 3 episode entitled The Ship of Tears. This was a challenge to watch, and that's just in the context of all the stuff that we've been discussing lately and where the show is. You know, the show still has like that episodic sense to it, even though it is serial. They have like 22 episodes to throw out there. so they had to slow things down after Babylon 5 seceded from Earth. The last time they did the King Arthur episode. And this time we're getting a Bester episode. Our good old buddy, old pal Bester. Favorite creepy Nazi in space.
He does a good job being creepy. His first line where they show his face, he just so perfectly creepy human. Like I'm not normal, but I'm just a human, but I am creepy as fuck.
Yeah. Right.
The murderer. I think narcissist might be a good word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Yeah, of course. Walter Koenig is such an amazing actor. He put so much into this character, which is crazy because his character from Star Trek, Chekhov, was not that much of a character. You know what I mean? He was kind of, it was definitely this is an international crew and he's from Russia. Remember, this was shot during the Cold War and we hate Russia. Here's a kid Russian that we like. He's so cute and just cuddly, and isn't it funny how he can't pronounce English words?
Hey, I remember seeing something where they said that Gene actually stated that they wanted to take advantage of the British invasion, like people in America, like that's with the little European boys. Making the statement about the coming together of humanity. So they got a Russian, because he's a Russian that was a cute young guy, to read the heartthrob type little band person, but at the same time making a statement about us working together. Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's interesting because the music industry was certainly trying to like recapture lining with all the copycat bands of the Beatles.
They mentioned the Monkees when they said that. The Monkees was one of those copycat bands.
Yeah.
Even the Korean pop industry since the late 90s actually came up with a formula based on that in order to create the fans that they have today and for the last 20 years.
I'm going to hold my comments to myself because I have a lot to say about that, and I don't want to step on people's toes. We'll just do that as a side mission. So the episode starts off. It is the crew walking through the station. Garibaldi, Franklin, and Ivanova. They're talking about how ISN is coming back on. This is interesting to think about. In the 90s, the news was an event. Anything that was going on was a major event for Americans. You have to remember this is in the aftermath of a lot of crazy stuff that happened on the air. David Koresh, O.J. Simpson, those types of things, right? And so when we see this happen in these fictional mediums, the news coming back on is a major event because that's all people had when it came to media. And they are making comments about how ISN went off the air. Clark's people shot up the place pretty good. They used a bomb to get in that place. And well, that seems a little wild when you think about it. You spend a few seconds considering history. That actually isn't so wild. The police dropped a grenade on the Move people in Philadelphia. with the Branch Davidian compound, they like firebombed that place. Well, they did a breach. And then we see how cops just use military grade weapons on average Americans. It's like, yeah, they would try to blow their way through because this is an authoritarian regime that will silence you at all cost. So
I thought that it was so silly how excited they got over the news coming back. I'm just like, they not ever done told you the truth. They not about to tell you the truth now. Why do you consume this content and why are you excited that they're back? Like, this is not a benefit for y'all. And it only took like 5 seconds for her to be online. I'll subscribe. Like, why is it so hard for them to, grasp? And I feel like that with real people today, right now, with all these crazy new laws and bills that are being, all this weird stuff that's happening. I'm like, why do y'all act surprised?
It reminded me very much of right now with TikTok coming back.
yes,
That part. Yeah.
Because I just assume like if TikTok comes back, it's not going to be the same. They're going to do something to it, just like they did to their news.
Yeah. It reminds me of when Sunday's mom watches CNN and she tells us the stuff that's happening on it. And it's like, we're not concerned about that. But they present it in such a sensationalized way for people who are connected to it. They get addicted to it and they're like, oh my God, can you believe this is happening? It's like, I don't know if they're accurately telling you what's happening. And
because the news works on ratings as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing. All corporate media is vulnerable to this type of manipulation. I don't care if it's CNN, if it's Fox, MSN, whomever. Their whole thing is we need profits, we need eyeballs, we need advertisement. The Babylon 5 advertisements are funny though. We haven't seen them lately, but like the Psycor commercial was hilarious. But we also have real life stuff like that where they are advertising joining the Army or the Marines during the Super Bowl because they got the most eyes there. So they spending like $4 or $5 million for 30 seconds so they can get some new naive recruits. So
it's not like they in every high school.
Oh yeah.
It's also very interesting. I watched an episode of Multi Emery, or listening to an episode, and they were discussing media content and whether it is like causing an issue in interpersonal relationships with the amount of negative media that you consume. And there's been all kinds of studies and stuff that will take a stab at saying that that's pretty much the case. But like the articles had intentionally triggering words to get the attention of people to consume the content and to get more clicks and to scroll and continue to scroll by seeing these outrageous headlines and titles and things. Yeah. And it makes you think like, why is this thing attractive to us, and is this something that is just inside of our brains to like or to want or to desire, or is it programming from having and seeing it so often? Where did the manipulation start, or did it ever even really start? Has it just been something that's inside of our brains that is now being manipulated? I just don't know.
I think it's something that's inside of our brains that's being manipulated. Like, humans are great when it comes to communication, and we've learned how to manipulate language to be persuasive. I remember when you and another person were talking about how a baby, like, does a baby manipulate you? And technically, yeah, because the first thing that they do to get your attention is cry. Like, the cry is show empathy for me so you can bring me food. They can't use words, so they use emotions. And so we've gotten a more complex version of that where people want to use that, manipulate it to take away your decision-making power and to also make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Who was that pointed out, Darvo? A lot of a lot of our information we get from media is using Darvo. And yeah, and here's the thing about all of that. Like media and propaganda, especially today, 21st century, 2025, it's propaganda. They're giving you information to persuade you to move in a certain direction. And right now we're seeing like it is wanting to paint politics in a certain light so people can feel like they are helpless unless they join a certain party. And in my humble opinion, that is something that has to absolutely stop. And the way it stops is we stop trying to do mass media to reach people, and you speak to people and kind of shake them out of these delusions so they can start using critical thinking and not be persuaded by a TV commercial or some gold shoes. Yeah. All right.
Oh, I was going to say, humans did evolve in order to react to danger.
Yes.
Because like back in the day when before technology and, the houses and stuff, or even before Homo sapiens were Homo sapiens, we had to collectively identify danger and react to it. And that hasn't gone away. It could be a trauma response, but most living creatures do that in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Plants. So, and then yes, our media does understand that that's how people react, because most people believe that fear or pain is the best way to change your behavior. That's why a lot of people think you're supposed to spank your kid.
Right.
Another almost irrelevant thing, when a baby has an issue, that at that time is the biggest issue they've ever had in their life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
It makes sense. Like, I'm hungry. There's this pain in my stomach. Freak out because you don't know what this is. By the time you're 2, you should figure out what that is and know, ask for some food. But by like 18 months, before 18 months, maybe crying makes sense because you haven't figured out what in the world's going on with you. You just have things going on.
So basically the propaganda through the media is playing out in front of everybody's eyes, and the crew are just slack-jawed. And it's hilarious because Ivanova's like, what? That's a lie. I can't believe they would lie like that. And they're caught off guard. What would you expect if a government-controlled media came back on the air, after they've been seized? It's definitely going to show what that government wants to show. And I also thought like it was interesting how the anchor's voice has this type of cadence to it that just kind of made everything seem like it was no big deal. And yeah, right. And they realized like, oh, well, there goes the hope for that. So we turn away from that, and there is Sheridan hanging out in space. He is testing out the new Star Furies that they got from the ships that blew up in the previous episodes. And these are Star Furies that can enter atmosphere, which thank you for at least having an explanation, right? Because in Star Wars, their ships can go from atmosphere to space and there's no problem. They are basically sitting in fighter jets with no shielding, and they're just in space as if there's no problem. I'm like, that's crazy. So Babylon 5 at least spent some time thinking about that. So while Sheridan is out, they get a distress signal that there's a ship coming by and they need to go. So Sheridan and his Furies, they go out scanning for it. There is the ship. Sheridan is like, they should be in scanning range. We should be able to see who they are. And lo and behold, the ship has an Omega insignia, which signifies this is part of Psychor. And the person that is in the ship is our good old buddy old pal Bester, just hanging out in deep space for no reason.
And the captain was like, we don't fuck with you.
And so there's this like weird little cat and mouse thing going on, because as the audience, we're supposed to think like, oh, Bester's the enemy and he's going to try to scan and he's going to try to take over these people and mess everything up. Turns out Bester is like, no, I got information that you could find useful. And Sheridan is like, I mean, I don't know what you think is going on here, but we're not Earth Force no more. I mean, I could just shoot you and that would be that. Don't nobody care. And then and Bester's like, oh, but if you kill me, you won't know the information I got. He's starting to sound a little pimpish. And this is also another one of those opportunities where you think, like, it's a good thing Ivanova's not out there, because she would have shot him with no problem. She tried to kill him all like 4 or 5 times in that other episode. So Sheridan shows restraint, and he orders the security team to, like, okay, we're going to escort you back. They put him into holding. I think, like, okay, that's a very prudent way to go ahead and handle that, because I don't care what anybody says, that dude is a loose cannon. He's an unknown factor right now. Back on the station, Ivanova is dealing with Jakar, who is harassing her, but really, I don't know, would you say he's harassing her?
Yeah. Okay, wait, okay, so he's supposed to have a meeting with her, and they keep canceling on him. So him being in her face like that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Because he has asked before, like he's talked to Delenn, and I think he's talked to Ivanov. He's like, look, I know y'all got some stuff going on. I want to be part of it. And then, like, the whole firefight and stuff went down. All the Narns got shot, and Sheridan is like, okay, you're in. But they ain't really talked to him. And now Ivanov is like, oh shoot, this is like really awkward, because the stuff we gotta share really ain't good, and he might be pissed at us, which, yeah, he should be.
Did he ever intimidate them or no? Because he said he would be patient, and then he said that his patience had run out.
Yeah, he said his patience had run out.
Yeah, but he says something to the effect of my patience is eternal, but even I got limits. And then she's like, but what happened to that eternal patience? And I swear this is one of the greatest lines. He goes, since time and space is curved, that eternal patience curves in back on itself. And we started back at the beginning, that's where I'm at the beginning. Now I need you to take some action right now, because you're pissing me off.
Tag pin defined for intimidation. So yes, he was harassing her,
or he was defending his position.
He was like, pay what you owe. You need to. I can't. I held up my side of the bargain. You need to pay what you owe.
That's the fact, because they've been taking this short end of the stick for a minute. The fight to free Babylon from the planet, they stepped up with the little means that they had to take over Babylon and make it secure and safe.
Yeah. So Ivanova reports to Sheridan, like, hey, Jakar's getting a little impatient, and he's talking about, like, well, we got Bester on the station, and we need to figure out what to do with him. And Sheridan is like, when somebody walks in there, he could scan them and they would find out everything. And Franklin says something that I thought was great too. So they be dropping these little nuggets. He's like, I mean, well, we've already done everything. We seceded from Earth. We got the Narns on our team. There's really nothing else for them to learn. And Sheridan is like, yeah, but we need to have something over this guy. And then he looks at Ivanova and gives her the look, and she's like, nah, you're not going to do this to me, are you? And he tells her, we need to know if he's going to try to scan somebody. You're a latent telepath. We need to know what we're dealing with. And she explains, like, I can't really block a psychop, but Sheridan is basically maneuvering her. She's kind of his pawn at this point, but it's strategic. At least we will know if he has some bad intentions.
That's a foreshadowing.
Yeah. So
using her the way she used her.
Yeah. And then when she goes in to talk to Bester doesn't scan her, but he does something much worse. He starts prodding her, which I like, okay. the way that they wrote this, I like it because Bester, he knows how to social engineer people too. And so his whole thing is, I'm going to irritate the hell out of you so I can get the information that I need. Because that's his part. He understands that he's in the dark and he's trying to figure out, like, what is the situation here too. And Ivanova is like, oh, let me tell you what the situation is. And she smacks him in the mouth and busts his lip. And so they started to have the conversation about what's going on. And it's about Clark. Bester's telling her, like, look, y'all should know that Clark has some friends that we don't like so much. We don't know who they are, but they are being influenced by some aliens. It's my guess that you know more about it than I do, which that's crazy. So the Psy-Corps was keeping this information from Bester. Earth Force was keeping this information from Bester. But he still figured out, like, some alien influences are running Earth Force. And Babylon 5 people know about it. So that explains why he went to them. So at the end of this discussion, well, there's a couple things that Bester said that I thought was pretty interesting, but you have to pay attention. These are some key phrases he uses. He's saying, like, what Clark's people's plans are, they're going to interfere with my plans. And I don't like that. So I need to talk to people who think like me. So I was thinking maybe I should go to you. And he's talking directly to Ivanova. Like, she don't like you. How you think she thinks like you? But he's just trying to create that, like, we have a common enemy.
He's love bombing.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I think I know how to hurt him. Don't you want to hurt him? And Ivanova's like making this face like, oh, God. What you got? Meantime, Delenn is talking to Sheridan. They're talking about what's going on with Nanarn and Jakar. And this is very poetic and dramatic. They're basically saying, like, look, when we tell Jakar what's really going on, he's going to hate us forever. And Delenn is like, here's the thing. You don't have to tell him. I'm going to tell him. And this has to deal with Sheridan's promise to her from the beginning. And it's basically her responsibility. She's the reason why Sheridan was quiet. So she needs to be the one to talk to Jakar. This is kind of like the tragic thing. This is a kind of a question on morality. And I hear this a lot of times. Like, are you going to tell the truth even though you telling the truth is going to kill a lot of people? You're going to help some people? Or also, are you going to hide the truth from somebody in order to save more people later? And this is going to be confronted about the reason why they had to, like, keep Jakar in the dark. And wasn't this over dinner too? Like, it seemed like they were having dinner.
Oh, I didn't get that impression.
I don't.
If you were having dinner, we would have saw him chewing.
Who was they? Who was?
Delenn and Sherry.
Delenn and Sheridan, yeah, they eat dinner. I thought you were talking about Jakar. I'm going ahead of myself.
Oh, yeah. You know, you're right. If it was Jakar, that dude would have been, like, eating and talking at the same time with stuff flying everywhere. Yeah. It's not highlighted, but we should be paying attention that they are spending a lot of quality time together, and these quiet, intimate times, and they're confiding, like, a lot of their deepest emotions with each other. This is their romance budding. This is the bad times in their romance. So they saddle up and they get together with Bester. Bester informs Sheridan about the Shadows having a transport that's carrying weapons and is being escorted by a lot of smaller ships. And with the information that he has, he's concerned that the Shadows has a major influence on the Psy-Corps, and he needs to stop that transport. And then he explains that the telepaths have a rare ability to locate small ships in hyperspace. Remember that it was a challenge for the Star Furies in the previous episodes. Our superhero Kiefer, who died in hyperspace because he got lost and then was destroyed by a shadow ship, and they had to send a whole team to try to find those guys. Well, come to find out, Bester and any telepath could have just been there and found it. Yeah. And they were like, well, why didn't you tell us this before? It's like, oh, we wanted to keep that a secret because if Earth Force knew telepaths could find ships, they would put the telepaths on the front lines, and we're not expendable at all. Mundanes, you guys are expendable. Yeah, they can kill thousands of y'all, but for us, no, we're rare. We're special. We don't need them to know this.
It's why I don't like you. So that's something that could be a valuable asset to help your, Earthmen. I don't know what to call us, but
humans.
You think you too good.
Yeah.
To, go out there and do the best that you can to protect and fight for us.
Yeah.
That's another example how they flew in this episode. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah.
But he did it in reverse.
Oh yeah.
Being from Star Trek.
Yeah. It's like, look, a bunch of y'all need to die, and that's okay because we need to take over anyway. In the meantime, I need y'all's help. So, and I wrote in my notes that Bester is an ethno-chauvinist, and I think he's some form of nationalist. Basically, like his agenda is telepaths need to run everything, and he's got like as much as he's under the flag of Psychor, like he's a telepath, and he's like, humans really shouldn't be telling us what to do. We should be telling y'all what to do. So Sheridan and Ivanova, they are accompanied by Bester using the White Star. They get him on the ship. This is the first time that he's part of that whole alliance, and it is weird, it's awkward, it's creepy. Sheridan is talking under his breath, insulting Bester. Bester, though, does not at any point attempt to scan any of the characters at all. He's showing that he's trustworthy in this situation. So that's an interesting development there. And so while they're out there, Bester homes in on the vessel, and they're getting ready for their confrontation. We go back to the station. Delenn is talking to Jakar. And this is a heartbreaking conversation. This is a heartbreaking conversation between two amazing actors who they are trying to draw every drop of tears from your face in this conversation. Delenn is explaining about how the Great Council knew about the shadows for a long time, and that they were influencing the Centauri. She says that the council chose to stay silent because they weren't ready. They were not able to engage them in a large conflict, and so they had to spend time to build up the defenses, and Jakar is pissed off. He says, if I had learned about this earlier, I would have killed you instantly. Someone saying that to you to your face, that's chilling enough, but it's Jakar. We know Jakar. He has like super strength. He probably would have been able to. Yeah.
I really love this scene too. And as unwilling as I am to see any of these, what I deem as bad people, like the side cop having a redeemable moment in this episode. What's his name? Londo. I know it's coming. I ain't trying to fuck with it though. And in this shit, Delenn is, from Jakar's eye, a whole bad guy out here. Like, so many of his people are dead because you didn't stand up and say something. And for Jakar to be able to understand the difficult nature of her decision, that's right, basic him, because I could see myself also being blinded by rage, not wanting to hear what the fuck she talking about. All our because and now you need to die still.
Yeah. And after Jakar expresses that, the words that he heard from Kosh in his vision come back to him. Some must be sacrificed so all can be saved. And that's the spiritual awakening that Jakar had in prison. And
the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah, there you go. And Delenn is finishing up this conversation. She's talking about, like, we know that our inaction led to the defeat of your world. but it likely kept the Narns from being totally annihilated. And she says, I know that this is hard to hear and to deal with now, but I do hope that in the future you'll find it in your heart to forgive us. And Jakar responds, not today.
Oh, it's kind of like she said that not speaking resulted in destruction of your world, but speaking would have had the complete destruction of the world.
Yeah.
And he does understand that, despite the fact that it does still hurt.
Yes.
Obviously. And she's empathetic too. It's not like she's like, well, at least
Right. No,
he would have been able to kill her. Like I had a moment like that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But to smack someone very important to me.
Ooh. I might want to hear that story after the show. Yeah. That's the whole thing. Remember I was talking about how this show makes you feel uncomfortable? We got the good guys mad at each other and really don't want to, they're not showing forgiveness to each other. We got the bad guy trying his hardest to get everybody's help because he got information, he's trying to help people. And then he's also saying that, yeah, those people that you are fighting, I hate them too. So we should team up. Do you want to form an alliance with me? So back on the White Star, Bester uses his abilities to locate and engage the shadow ships. They destroy the smaller ones and they capture the transport vessel. And this is where Sheridan starts to feel a little suspicious because they're scanning it and they're finding out like there's something weird about this ship. And Sheridan talks to Bester like, hey, are you sure your info is good on that ship? What did they say was on that ship? And Bester's like, I was told that it was weapons supplies. Listen to the way that he talks. Listen to the...
It was told.
Right. Listen to the way he talks. I was told.
With the White Star, though, when Dexter was in a captain's chair, he like, yo, get your ass out my seat. And then it was Bester who had to give the coordinates on where to go. And the people who were driving the ship didn't do nothing. And then the captain is like, yeah, do what he said. And then they had to translate the order a third time into service pretty didn't happen. Y'all know he died.
It's just like going to power into transformation.
Yeah. Like 30 minutes to get the ship moving. Also, you have to remember, like, we're suspending disbelief and we're like cutting corners in our brain about a lot of this stuff. It probably is not very easy to move a starship. That's all I gotta say about that part. It's if someone wanted to fire on them, they probably would have hit them a couple times. No big deal.
Yeah, and it's not like they're being chased by anything. They're actually looking for something. They do have like forever to stick into coordinates.
Yeah. So when they capture the ship, they inspect it. Sheridan and Ivanova, they discovered that this ship is filled with nanotubes containing people. And they're like, oh, God. Bester, you son of a bitch. And they take the ship back. When they arrive back on Babylon 5, we find out that the pilot of the ship committed suicide. They show his face, and this dude's got a really fucked up face. It looks like something melted through the front and out the back of it. It was gross. And Dr. Franklin was like, ooh, a specimen. Franklin, all right, I like to talk about how Franklin is the best human in the galaxy, in the universe, but he do come across as like a supervillain sometimes. He be
Use his powers for good.
Yeah. He's just one decision away from like opening people up alive. I don't know.
Yeah, how do you think he looks like a surgeon?
He already did.
Yeah.
He let the soul out of that child.
Oh, come on. Oh,
They told him not to. He still did it.
yeah. That was his Messiah complex talking.
We digress.
Franklin was concerned by the presence of like the telepaths in cryo and wanted to know what happened to him. Because remember, when they found them, these guys looked like they were frozen while they were in terror. It looked gross. And
trying to have a horror episode.
yeah, Sheridan is immediately suspicious of the cargo and the pilot's action. It's like, why would this even happen? What's going on? Why are there so many telepaths here? Why? um,
I need answers and I want them now.
so it turns out that the cargo is 100 telepaths. Franklin is kind of like, are these the weapons that we were talking about? He's shocked to see the type of technology that's connected to him. And this is where my brain went when I saw this. I was like, this is like the Borg, but a little scarier. I don't know. What's scarier to you?
I was thinking that it was given 7 of 9.
So we were thinking the same thing kind of at the same time. Because when you said that, I was like, yep, it makes me think of the Borg. Because she had that thing on her face. That telepath that was in that tube. That little, I don't know, the little stick. the metal thing on her face.
The implant. What is she? I wanted to remember what that word was because it was reminding me of a project that I need to work on after I finish the one I'm on now.
And while I was watching the show, it made me think of Project Starlink with with Mr. Musk, and how there's now 3 whole human beings who have been implanted with that. I got a lot to say about that. Maybe we'll talk about that in a side mission about the potential flaws of implanting humans with an implant like that. So, yeah, this is where they start to realize, like, okay, they're using these telepaths as weapons, and something about this whole situation ain't right. Sheridan is skeptical about this, so he picks Bester's brain and is like, how, you need to tell us what you know. And he throws the bracelet that they found, which has the Psychor symbol. And this is where Bester finally comes forward. It's like, oh, well, she is a blip. She's a person who has telepathic powers, but decided to run. And they're having this conversation about, like, why would they use runaway telepaths? And then Bester just suddenly goes cold. This dude is like, oh, shoot, I need to talk to this person immediately. And they're like, what's going on? Back in MedLab, Franklin is examining the cybernetic implants, and it's her name is Carolyn Sanders. She wakes up, screams. She connects to the computers in MedLab. Like, it's kind of wild how that happens so quickly. And the way that they depict it is a little weird because it's just a bunch of wires everywhere. But it's the 90s, and this is, that's how that's cybernetic stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what it reminded me outside of Akira.
Yeah, it is very reminiscent of Akira. Oh, if they had gone the Cronenberg route, it would have been like muscles and viscera.
And more Akira, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is daytime TV, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And like they have to evacuate MedLab. They try to figure out like what's going on. She sees the little bracelet with the Psychor symbol on it, and she blasts it. So not only is she connected to the computers, but she can like shoot bolts at people. Bester gets involved, and they all get in there, and Bester gets shot at. And I thought that was a little wild. And he's wondering like, why would she shoot at me? Garibaldi looks at the little Psychor patch, and he throws it down on the ground. She shoots it down. He goes, "Huh, that's why she hates you all." That's a pretty sad situation there you got there, Bester.
Yeah, that's why you run away, because be serving you. And when she saw him, it was like, "Help me." But then when he stepped forward and she saw the Psychor emblem, she changed her mind about getting help from him, which is wise because he can't be trusted.
Yeah. They're all trying to figure out the best way to stop her while she's on the station. They don't want her shooting at people. Bester is desperate to get close to her. He's really concerned with this woman in particularly. We'll be talking about that shortly. And Garibaldi, of course, is doing his security job, making sure that nobody else gets hurt. And they're showing that she has psychic abilities. She's connected to the computer systems. Garibaldi assesses the situation. knew that she was gonna blast the Psychor badge. She's disoriented and panicked, and she asks Bester, like, "What have they done to me?" And that shows that these two know each other. They actually have a connection. Upon hearing her call him by name, which was Al, uh, I'm sorry, which is Al, he's overwhelmed. He collapses and is bombarded with like all these memories of seeing what the aliens did to her. And in her vision, you can see those weird skull, fleshy aliens with the mask on, and they're like drilling into her head. Another 90s thing, this is kind of reminiscent of the alien abduction videos that they would always try to recreate.
Yeah.
So I like the imagery there.
Especially the shape of the head and the gray.
Yeah.
Very gray. Yeah.
It was super gross. It was super disgusting. In that whole case, Bester is rendered speechless and useless. So his emotions have overtaken him in this situation. Back at his office, they had neutralized that situation. Back at his office, Bester reveals that Carolyn is the only woman that he had ever loved. And he explains how they had this relationship and they had a daughter, and he was trying his best to get her to join the Psychor, and she didn't want to, and he was very upset about that. He was like, the only way we can be together is if you join the Psychor or you take the meds. So even with a person like Bester, the Psychor that he champions, the telepaths that he thinks are going to be the future, they have rules that are negatively affecting him directly as well. And he just takes it.
I think his love for her, because the first thing he saw, he said that she was a possible level 12.
Yeah.
She hadn't gone through any of the testing or anything. She just been found to be a. So they eventually get to their level because they can train to their level. She started off as a latent at a 12. And that's like rank for hell.
Yeah. Like,
she's probably more in love with her power.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then saying, oh, well, she's pregnant with my child.
Mm-hmm.
Level 12 too. You level 12's having a baby. That's what you're invested in. I don't think he cares about that. Promotion.
Yeah, because remember earlier in the episode, he says it takes generations to breed a telepath. So of course he's thinking about that. He's a eugenicist, and he thinks he's special. He found a level 12 that he can breed with, and they have a child, which they don't really talk much about that child. But there's a baby out there somewhere that has some significant telepath powers. That would be a great follow-up series. Like, what are the telepaths doing? Yeah.
So she should be like she should be getting. He said he last saw her 4 weeks ago.
Oh, shoot.
He'll be in her first trimester.
Oh.
And that's why, part of the reason why he's really concerned about seeing her.
Okay. So thank you, because I missed that detail. Well, they did try to do a telepath story in season 5. We'll take a look at when we get there, but also if they do a revival series, they should definitely spend a little time on that some more. Because that's eugenics. They're doing eugenics. Like, we're going to breed the perfect human. We're going to breed the perfect telepath. To end that scene, Bester promises he will do anything to help save Carolyn, and he's going to go to war with the shadows, and he's going to shift his priorities. Sheridan and Ivanova, while suspicious, they recognize, like, okay, he's telling the truth. And Bester says a thing that I think is pretty significant. He goes, your war is now my war. So for love, he will go to war with the shadows. And that's monumental. It's supposed to be noble, but this guy's still gross. But what happens is the War Council now has an ally with the telepaths. And that's going to be, we'll learn here shortly why that's significant.
They should just kill him and get the ones they help escape the station.
That's in the season that comes later. Yeah. No, for you, yeah, I'm like, yeah, that would be great, but they're just not there yet.
I didn't remember that at all.
Yeah.
My idea.
Um, Delenn brings Jakar to the command room. That's like the war room for the conspiracy of light. And she's like, okay, we're bringing you in. We are glad that you can join us. Jakar he shares that he's deeply honored to be among them. And he sees the war council. And he sees all the people moving around, the maps and all that stuff. We get some serious music, and it's like, okay, finally we get these major pieces that have been moving in this direction. They're all together. We got telepaths, we got Narn. Almost all of the pieces are in place to make this an effective war council. I don't know, just thinking, what do y'all two think might be missing? What are some things that this war council could use to help them in their war against the shadows?
More ships.
Oh yeah, of course.
I hate to say this, but somebody from the Bald Eagle.
Garibaldi?
No, the bald people. The Londo user.
Oh, okay. The Centauri? Yeah.
Yeah, get his assistant.
Which?
I can't remember his name.
Veer.
Veer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Veer. I like Veer.
Yeah.
Or
Or maybe they're weird. You know,
there we go.
that is when revolution be starting. Let's definitely talk to some of the women and see if they are on the right side of things or no.
Talk about their pushy position.
You know, that is an interesting thing that you say. We're gonna circle right back around to that here in a second. So here's what happens. Ivanova and Sheridan, they're talking about Bester joining them. She will never trust him. She uses that quote, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," and Sheridan is like, "Oh, you sound very cryptic," and she's like, "I don't like this fucking guy." Which, okay, we know that you've been trying to kill him since he showed up the first time. Great, but you know he's on their team. Garibaldi, he's over there studying the Book of Jaquan, and he's like, he's like, "I think I know what's going on here," and he calls a code 707R or whatever, and Sheridan's like, "I'm a little busy." He's like, "Make time." Like, come on, like, you telling the captain that he needs to make time for you? All right. I know, right? And so they get together, and Garibaldi reveals to them like what's going on in the Book of Jaquan, which is, it talks about how the shadows used Narn as a base. You know, the ancient enemy used it as a base, and he believes that the shadows were the ones that destroyed all of the telepaths of the Narn. Ivanova connects to that, and she proposes that this is a major discovery because the shadows avoided attacking the White Star in their recent hyperspace trip, and it's probably because they sensed Bester's telepathic power. And this is where we get the revelation, like, oh, the shadows are afraid of telepaths. And even one that's under control, like Bester, you know, the Psychor, they possess latent power that the shadows recognize and they fear. Ivanova connects the dots and offers that if we have telepaths on our ships, maybe the shadows won't attack. And there is another step to this, and I'm trying to remember before, like, I'll probably cut this out. Did they find out that the telepaths are that the shadows are using telepaths for their ships?
Hell yeah.
Because she was integrating with the technology.
Yeah.
Which indicated that they were going to integrate the people to the technology. Plus, Garibaldi saw that in the Book of Jaquan that was when all of the telepaths, at least the strongest ones, disappeared.
Oh yeah, they were integrated with the ships, and so the shadows are harvesting and using telepaths, and now we know that, and it's like, oh, we got telepaths on our side now, so we can use this information.
it also said in the book of Jaquan that the last of the Jaquan, me and one of them, uh were able to use their dream walking in order to send them away.
Yeah. And so they're using their telepathic power, which is funny. It's funny that you're saying dream walking, because that sounds like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness when he was using the Darkhold book to dream walk in different dimensions. Anyway, but it's a good way to kind of like flub the science on telepathy.
Maybe that's where Marvel got it from.
Probably, especially around that time, because Marvel wasn't doing so great in the late 90s. But so we got this very important information going on. They realized like we might have to put this information to work right away, because the Shadows have begun an open attack in Precary space. And this escalation marks like the shift of the Shadow War going from covert to overt, and they got to jump into action. Our characters finally are getting information. Like a lot of this stuff is finally coming out into the open. We are almost ready, but now we got to go fight. And then the show ends.
It was super good. The way they are pulling the extreme threat into a need, because they would not have been able to find out, this pertinent information had the Nazi psychop come with this information. Now, I still don't think that we need to be, keeping him close. There are plenty of psychics out there that, don't like the psych ward, that are, running for their lives, that can be requested to come and be a part of the team. Mm-hmm. But it's a very interesting turn of events that now we're not so crippled, and, with no defense against the Shadow.
But every time they bring in new information like this and just bring things together, I'm impressed of how well they do it. There's never a Deus Ex Machina.
So far.
So far, like so far, there hasn't been any. I thought they did a really good job of meeting all that information through. It also made me think of Jakar using that drug, right? When he beat up Londo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it opened up his telepathic ability, which is how he had his spiritual spiritual awakening. Because that's what it did to his species, which means that might show up again.
Yeah.
I want that to show like, the latent telepath could take the drug and be stronger, and at least the aliens, because I think they said it kills humans. I don't know.
I think in that episode they were saying that the dust was engineered for humans, and it could have negative effects on the aliens. They don't know how it's gonna. And then Homeboy was like, "Hey, I need to make some money while I'm on this station, so I'm about to slang some of this cane while I'm over here."
Yeah, I could see maybe Ivanova maybe using this opportunity eventually to embrace the fact that she's a telepath.
I am curious about that. But we also did exhibit, like, she was using some powers beyond what other telepaths were able to use when she was part of the Great Machine, looking to talk to the older ones. So there might be a little bit more going on there than what even Ivanova knows.
Yeah.
How do y'all feel about Jakar finally joining the Alliance, knowing the full truth?
Finally.
Yeah.
Fight for this since day one.
I mean,
all this stuff happened.
When I was editing all of our episodes, I kept saying, like, nobody listens to Jakar. Nobody's been listening to Jakar. And it's crazy. Like, 2 seasons or a season and a half, nobody's listening to Jakar. He knows what's up. And then they're just like, we can't deal with it. We can't do it. Or we got to keep it a secret. We can't tell him, The transformation that the character Jakar has gone through. Because, he probably would have tried to kill people immediately. Like, y'all let us die? All of y'all got to die. We about to air out this whole station. We about to space everybody. But now he's like, The needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few. I like the way the Kosh said it better though.
Yeah. Different. I there's something about like him getting hot headed and just, taking the immediate revenge versus actually solving the problem. Because even if you solve the problem of the Centauri, you still have the problem of the shadows. This is time. The shadows has killed your people. Like you just used the Centauri this time. Not that the Centauri didn't already have their crimes, but that made it easier for them to use the Centauri.
Yeah.
You already killed all y'all your psychics, and now they use the other people to blow up your planet. They would have easily just blown up the whole planet if they wanted to, if they didn't use them. So yeah, you don't solve anything by killing any of these people.
Right. And I think that's the big part of it. Like, while the immediate reaction, the immediate emotional response, it could be cathartic. You have to realize, like, there's a much bigger picture here, and that we're trying to defeat this enemy that's been here the entire time, and nobody is safe. And if we just chill out for a little bit, just chill out. We need to be strategic for a little bit longer. Then we can join forces. How do you think that's going to turn out? How do you think it's going to turn out when we have all these people who are under threat and have to rely on each other to fight the shadows?
They're going to have to listen to God.
His only hope that, like, in some reality that, I didn't think that I'd live to see a black president, like, that maybe I would live to see, like, humans actually come together and get along. Because this is basically, like, all the different nations across the planet finally getting their act together and stop polluting the planet and, come together and do things that are for the good of humanity and not, of profits of some man somewhere that wants the organs of women after themselves and all that weird shit that men do. But like, then he could take some kind of extraterrestrial threat to come, finally get humans to get their act together.
I kind of feel like that's what this show is about too. Like, it's like this and that The Watchmen. Like, what is going to unify all of humanity? Oh, an alien invasion. I don't have that optimism anymore. I feel like if an alien invasion happened, humanity would fracture itself to almost oblivion. Because you're going to have some dumbasses like, oh, no, we need to join the aliens. They came here to teach us and to liberate us. We've been talking about them for decades. We told you the government was lying about them. And then you're going to have people like, no, they're demons. We need to kill the demons. We need to kill the people who are hanging out with the demons. And then you're going to have people who are like, we don't believe this is happening.
They did that at Mars Attacks. They were all like, the aliens are coming. They're coming to get us. They're our friends. And then we had the Area 51 raid where they were trying to and then
Yeah.
They thought they were going to run. They thought they were like in the Area 51 and have sex with aliens.
Yeah. That was so stupid.
That long ago.
It turned out like it was so stupid because it was like they couldn't actually get into Area 51, so they just had like a rave out by it.
One in Las Vegas, and then there was another one closer to Area 51, and there was like a handful of people who actually went to the gate of Area 51, and one person actually went under like some of the tape and stuff, and they just told them, go back, and they just came back out. Yeah. It took like 5 stars on me. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Break in the Area 51 or go rave. They all went to the rave.
They went to the rave. It's like that was the instead of the raid on Area 51, it was the rave on Area 51. Hey, maybe we could like capitalize on that, make that like a thing. Go out into the Nevada desert, have the big rave, have it be like a alien themed rave. Get some of those flat Earth celebrities to come out and party with us. make some
I
money.
mean, they already have Burning Man. But
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Oh, it could be. It's like Firefest. We could just throw some stanky tents and give people peanut butter sandwiches. Okay, all right, let's get out of here. Thank y'all for joining us for this episode of Voices in Hyperspace. You can check us out as we continue through this journey. We are on Facebook. We are on TikTok for the time being. At least another 70 days. And we are on Instagram. Continue the conversation by joining us and finding us at Voices of Hyperspace. And be sure to tell your friends to find us on all of their favorite streaming platforms. Oh yeah, we're on YouTube, and y'all should probably leave your comments there. I'm Legendary Black Lion, and the best way to get me is on Instagram.
I'm Captain Mel Asylum, and you can go to melsrebellion.com and count down to unrooting the system. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm back on Clapper again. If you go to my website, you'll find links to most of my socials.
Nice.
Hey y'all, this is Cindy.
Awesome. Thank y'all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.